وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. We begin in the name of Allah, the most merciful and the one who bestows all mercy, and we ask Him to send His timeless, choicest, most abundant peace, blessings, and mercy upon our dear beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his wives and his family members and his companions and all those who follow their example till the day of judgment, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us amongst them. Allahumma ameen. This is good. We're doing some introspection today, so it's good that you guys are in the dark. Ignore the people around you. And first of all, welcome. Maybe that's a better start. Welcome to session number 2 of Couple Goals. From covenant to, what was it? Courtship to covenant, right? 2 out of possibly 12 sessions, so that's what we're aiming for. First session, we did a little bit of an intro. What are the themes and the concepts and the principles, the tenets that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to think of when we think of marriage? When we think of marriage or the Muslim family, what are the themes or the concepts that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to think of? It's kind of what we spent most of the time doing. What did we come up with? Marriage in Islam or the family in Islam is all about what? What themes? We came out with like 7 or 8 of them from the Quran and Sunnah. Mercy. Mercy actually wasn't one of them, but it kind of falls into, it's kind of divided into the others. Anybody? Yes? Nada? So worship is one of them. Yeah, good guess. So worship is a big fundamental part. وَأْمُرْ أَهْلَكَ بِالصَّلَاةِ وَاصْطَبِرْ عَلَيْهَا. Allah says, command your family with prayer and be patient upon that command, meaning they may not listen right away, but it's your job. Worship is a familial goal. It's something that you're going to do together as a family, and there's responsibility. So worship is definitely one of them. Thank you, Nada. Anything else? Security. So physical security, emotional security, these are themes that are clearly mentioned in the ayat and the hadith of Muslim family, Muslim home. Anything else? Respect. Respect wasn't one in of itself, but again, it's divided amongst the others. Yes, sister? So it's a responsibility. There's accountability when it comes to family. They're not just a freebie. They're not a blessing that you just enjoy. They're a blessing that you'll be asked about on the Day of Judgment. What did you do with this blessing? Did you fulfill your roles and your responsibilities towards them before anything else? Anything else that we have here? Tranquility. So peace of mind, emotional tranquility, spiritual tranquility, physical tranquility. The home and the family is supposed to be a source of these things. Good. Anything else? Comfort and joy. So there's simply pleasure. Pleasure is not haram. It just has certain outlets. And there's, in the family, there's manifestation of pleasure from different angles. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made that halal from the various angles, whether it's emotional, physical, in terms of the relationship, from so many different angles that this family, children, right, these are supposed to be a joy. They're supposed to be, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls them zinatul hayatul dunya, the decorative things of this worldly life. They're glitter, they're extra, but He gave them to you to enjoy within certain parameters, which is what we're exploring here. So in and of itself, joy and fun, comfort, enjoyment as a familial goal within spouses, within children, within the whole family structure is completely fine. And it's actually not just fine, but a purpose of marriage within Islam. So while the primary and the focus, is, especially if something of a session like today, will be the worship, will be the purpose, at the end of the day, it is not just a side point of marriage to enjoy. It's one of the main points, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that, and the Prophet mentions that as well. We'll get to that eventually. So we delved into that a little bit, the points of marriage. Today we're talking about the ideal spouse, which is you, question mark. I don't know why I put an exclamation mark. It's actually supposed to be a question mark. Is the ideal spouse you? The ideal spouse is you? That's kind of how I want to say it. That matches the tone of a question, right? Or so I've been told by humans. So the point of this is, when you think about marriage, there's a ton of different perspectives that come up, and this is not going to match any of them. This is about self-development. It's about purpose. It's about self-criticism. So this session will not be comfortable. You will not have a good time. And that's by design. That's completely fine. If you're having a good time, if you're completely comfortable, then most likely your journey is stagnating. or regressing. There's no way that it's progressing and you're comfortable. It doesn't match. This is not what the world what this world is for. Did I spill something? Almost spilled it. Thank you, Sarib. So you're going to be a little bit uncomfortable now, which is okay. And I invite everybody to sincerely consider everything that we're saying on a personal level. Try to ignore the people around you. We're going to have a couple of reflective exercises. And this is really far more important than anything else we're about to cover. How often do you hear that? Someone says, I'm not ready to get married. Do we hear it often? Why? What's the Slido? Keep people comfortable, I don't know why. What's the Slido called? Instead of saying them out loud, so that way you can be comfortable. So people say, I'm not ready to get married. I'm not ready for marriage right now. What do they mean when they say that? Feel free to raise your hands. Go ahead, Ahmed. So they're not financially stable. That's one. We can agree finances. Mida? So school, career. There's no right or wrong answer. This is just open feedback from everybody. I'm going to look at the Slido occasionally. You guys remind me when there's stuff up there, I might forget. Anything else? That's it. So if I have finance, I have school, and I have career. The age, I'm too young? Okay. Anything else that people say? They don't want to be responsible for somebody else and want to have fun. Not emotionally ready. What does that mean, though? I'm not emotionally ready. Yeah, Ahmed. So I'm not mature enough yet? Okay. What does that mean, though? Like, what is the sign of maturity? I don't have a full-time. That it seems to flow to the others. I don't have my finances ordered. I don't have a job. Just not emotionally ready, just blank? I'll take it. Just asking. Not ready to commit? Again, what does that mean? Why are you not ready? To me, that seems redundant. I'm not ready because I'm not ready. Well, I'm asking you why, right? So not emotionally ready, what does that mean? They're not ready to commit. Why are they not ready? Otherwise, it's not an answer. Men want to explore more, weigh out their options. Options in quotations. Why are options in quotations? Doesn't seem like they should be. This wasn't a joke either. It was just asking, genuinely. Not fulfilling the roles already in, like being a child and sibling before becoming a spouse. I'm not sure what that means. Not fulfilling the roles already in, that you're already in, like being a child and a sibling before becoming a spouse. So you didn't fulfill those roles yet. So what does it mean to fulfill those roles? When are you done being a child or a sibling? I'm not trying to make fun of the answers. I'm trying to ask for follow-ups and clarifications. Feel free to put it in the Slido or raise your hands. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Okay. That makes more sense. It's clearer. This is what people usually say. People usually come out with these kind of a variety of these answers. Could vary a little bit, but it's usually these. Spiritual readiness, I'm still developing myself. Financial stability, like Mido said, that's usually males, but not always. Sometimes it's still, I'm finishing school debt. What's that called again? Loans, there you go. I was like, that's not the word school debt. There's an actual word for it. It's been a long day. Who are you to judge? So loans, they're still working on their loans. And there could be other financial responsibilities that they may have. Emotional maturity, which is very vague, but a lot of people might say, I've had a bad experience, still not ready, still dealing with maybe emotional issues. It's possible that it could be concrete, but usually this is like very vague and it's a question mark, but it's what people say. Then physical well-being. I'm not thin enough, I'm not pretty enough, or I'm still working on this kind of physical issue. till then. That's a lot of people as well. So these are the questions that usually come up. And, the million dollar, forget Ahmed and Sada for now. The $1 million question is, are you ready? So again, feel free to Slido it. That way you can stay in your shell. I'll not pry. Personal insecurities. What's that? Oh, why people don't get married? Not ready to sacrifice some things like time, hobbies, and studies. Not emotionally ready. Not ready to commit. Don't want to carry the responsibility and burden of another person in your life. Think you're ugly. Think you're ugly. Not ready because they went through something traumatic. We mentioned that. And then, nah. I don't know what that is. So, not ready. So, if people, in terms of your own physical state, for real though, are you ready? Yes. I'd put that under emotional maturity. I think it could be its own category, traumatic experiences, but I think it falls under emotional maturity. Are you ready? If no, why not? Putting everybody on the spot. My favorite part of the job. Yeah, Adam. That's what other way can it go, man? I mean, okay. This is what this class is all about. It's about, I told you guys you might be a little uncomfortable, but explore yourself. So the next step is we're going to work on those things piecemeal, like in this class, and then you work on them individually. So Jazakallah khairan for volunteering. Everybody else, you can either put on the Slido or if you have one that you want to mention. So somebody also mentioned not ready, and they put a bunch of like different money signs from different currencies. So the whole point of this talk, remember, is this introspection. I want to start off with this general, are you ready? And then considering what would make you ready and what not. I don't have to hear all of them or hear any of them really, but just consider that first before we move on. Because when people say they're ready or they're not ready, they kind of think of different things, completely different than what it actually means to be ready or to not ready, which is why I have Ahmed and Sara here. What's their problem? Here's Ahmed's problem. Ahmed says he wants a righteous wife, but his sleep schedule is all over the place. He sleeps at random times, he wakes up at random times, he pulls all-nighters for no reason. That's kind of his norm. He still goes to work, but this is just how his personal life is at home. He can barely manage $1,000. You put $1,000 in his hand, he'll either lose them, spend them frivolously, get into debt. It'll disappear as soon as it entered his account. His prayers are often rushed. He's missed Fajr consistently for months. And his Quran gathers dust on his shelf. Is Ahmed ready for marriage or just the idea of marriage? Who says Ahmed's not ready for marriage? Raise your hands. Who says Ahmed could be ready for marriage? It's possible. This isn't the end of the story. Ahmed says so. Why Ahmed? Because we have the same name. I gotta be ready. It's a process. So he's getting ready, but he's not ready now though. He's saying I want to get married. That's how it starts. The premise starts. Yeah. I mean, he can't even get a wicked one. He's not managing his money. So I agree that this is an added layer that would complicate his request and what he wants, but the whole premise is ridiculous. He's far removed from being ready. Like, it's not a successful venture. It's impossible to succeed, right? We can all see that. What about Sara? Sara says this community has no reliable men. You can't find any man to rely on. They're not responsible. She cannot recite from the Mus'haf confidently. She relies on the same 3 to 5 surahs every single prayer, most of which she prays in the final minutes of their window. She forgets how many days she owes every Ramadan and just wings it. Just says whatever. This year it's 4 days, 5 days, and she just fasts whatever. Doesn't record them, doesn't follow up. She's 5'5" with an attitude. Her tongue is sharp, and she prides herself on always telling everyone exactly how it is, no matter how they feel. Who comes up with this stuff? I do. I make all of it. Is Sara, but by the way, this isn't just me sitting down and having a great time. These are real stories of people. These are you guys, by the way. Yeah. So, joke's on you. Not so funny now, is it? AI made the picture, though. This isn't really Ahmed or Sara. And that's their baggage on the side of the road. They did a really good job. I mean, for a robot. So, is Sarah ready or is she tripping? The bottom line is, no one's going to jump up at the prospect of either one. They're not prime prospects. And we don't even have to explain why for either side, do we? So we have a clear idea of certain things that are you're definitely not ready. You're failing life, right? Not you, the figurative you. No one here. No one here, I mean it. For several reasons. I'm not just trying to pick you up, like, I really do mean it. But for these kind of people that you're struggling from every angle. So now we're talking about adding just another person to the mix. B, that you have a serious amount of responsibilities towards, that you're liable in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for, that will do what to your qualities? What does marriage do to your qualities? Say it again. It amplifies them. Good or bad, it amplifies them. So if they're bad, they shouldn't get worse. And if they're good, they'll get better. So where are you at right now? Are you ready? If the answer is no, then marriage won't change anything for the better. That's the reality, because that's what a lot of people, they end up concluding. They think that, oh wait, I'll just get married and that will solve a lot of these problems. Clearly not. So the first thing is, where you start is the purpose of life. And we already spoke about that, right? We were created for one purpose, we know. So it's the Dhariyat. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I did not create mankind or jinn kind except to worship me. That's our purpose. So you can divide that purpose in different angles. So this mic doesn't go further, so I won't use the board. But you guys could divvy it up as you see fit. And maybe next time I'll pull the board back here, it's fine for now. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I created you for worship, that's the reason why you exist. That's why Allah made you. That means this is the primary objective of your existence, right? That gets divided into two categories. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mean when He says, I created you for worship? The first side is the 5 pillars, right? Which is shahada, prayer, zakah, sawm, hajj. These are the 5 primary objectives that I created you to establish. This is what it means to worship me. That's step 1. Step 2 now is in everything else. Everything else that you do, eating, drinking, moving, sleeping, how does that become worship? It's not a ritual. The other 5 that we just mentioned, they're rituals, right? Shahada, you say something specific. Salah, you do a specific ritual 5 times a day with specific parameters, specific do's and don'ts. Zakah, you give your money, specific parameters again. Sawm, you fast with specific parameters. And Hajj, you make that pilgrimage with specific parameters. So these are all specific rituals that have specific time, place in your life. Salah is every day, everything else is once a year. And Hajj is once a lifetime. That's ritualistic worship of what Allah wants you to do. Does He want you to do any ritualistic worship beyond that? No. So what does He want you to do in your life now when it comes to everything else for it to be fulfilling this purpose? Because He doesn't want you to worship 24/7. But then He says, I only created you to worship. Nothing else has meaning. So how do we solve that contradiction? Yeah, Ahmed. Does it have to be everything that I do for the attention of Islam? What if it's not? Will I be sinful? So, doesn't match. Then I wasn't created to worship. I could play, I could do other things on the side. So if I do these things within the parameters that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala drew, I earn money the way He told me is halal, I spend it in the way that He told me is halal, and I fulfill everything just by doing it the way that He told me to, He'll reward as if it's worship. If I tweak the intention now, and I say I also intend good with it, not just regular eating, drinking, and going about, now I can also get rewarded. If there's a clash between it and worship, so I drop it even though it's permissible, then it becomes worship. So when I tweak all these everyday things, they can become worship, they can become rewarding, and a source of blessing from Allah. Or they could be neutral actions. But the bottom line is He created them and allowed them, and the rituals is what I have to do. And then in these parameters, in these normal actions, I just have to follow certain parameters, as you see here. Make sure that I live it by permissible means. Make sure that I reciprocate gratitude, generosity, patience when it doesn't go my way. As long as I fill all those basic things, which are small principles to keep in mind, then the rest of my life is rewarded as if it's worship, and that's a successful life. This is the life goal, right? This is the greatest focus. Meaning what? Marriage is a piece of that. It's not outside of it. It's not separate. It's not more important, even worse. It is, where does it fit in all of that? That's a question you have to answer. I can't answer for you. Where does your marriage and your quest to get married fit in that in your personal journey? If you have no answer, if it's separate altogether, then you're missing the plot. Then it's clashing with your life purpose and you don't know it. And it's unlikely to produce the things that it's supposed to produce. So this is an important starting point. Why? Because a lot of times people say things and set up expectations that contradict this for the sake of marriage. So what are some things that people say before marriage? We'll get back to that since I already put the examples there. What are some things that people say that contradict what we just shared? That marriage is a piece of this. It's a milestone within this greater purpose of worshiping Allah, and it fits into this puzzle or this formula that I just shared. When people don't look at it that way, they end up giving wacky advice or having wacky approaches to marriage that contradict all this. Like what? Anything you've heard? I already shared one of them, which is they'll say, marriage will fix me. I'll marry this person and I'll get fixed. Or just the idea of marriage will fix me. So that directly contradicts everything we just said. How? How so? Yeah, Ahmed. Right, your purpose in life is to fix these problems directly yourself. There's no magic button. There's no umrah that you'll go to and all of a sudden you'll be a new person. So the idea of just thinking that this will fix me just doesn't exist. It's contradictory to the concept of tazkiyah, of purifying your soul, of being patient over training yourself. All these concepts that we were told in our deen that you have to sacrifice, you have to be patient. It doesn't make sense that you'll just move on to this next life phase and everything will click. That you'll do this one ritual. That's not what our deen teaches at all. So to hang it on to this process where it's no indication in our deen whatsoever that it's a purification process. Marriage is not a purification process, right? It's not something that earns you forgiveness and a whole new you. It's a challenge, right? It's the next phase that you're engaging in with your problems that you're bringing into it. So that's one thing people say. If I get married, it'll fix me, or I'm just waiting to get married to solve this problem. What else do they say? Yeah, Zach. I'll fix them. It's a whole other issue. You have your hands full with you. You're not doing the best job already. It's like now you want to, I'll also fix them. It's like it's a big assumption, right? So you're going out on a limb here. And that's why the general premise is, you ready? Not going to like it. But if you don't accept them as they are now, don't marry them. That's the answer. If you're not satisfied with their religious commitment, with their financial commitment, with where they are now, don't marry them. That's different than this isn't the ideal and I'll be patient with it for 5 years. I'm accepting it as is now. And it may change or may not. That's a different conversation. But if this is a problem, I don't like it, I'll fix it or it'll get fixed, you're setting yourself up for a huge disappointment. Yeah.
So there's talk about this marriage will fix me, and we also mentioned I'll fix them, but there's also this baby will fix us. I've heard that a lot.
It's the worst. It's even worse. It's a baby, can't do anything. Doesn't know anything, has zero, it's absolutely, I don't know if you guys have met babies, but they don't fix anything. They break stuff, right? And they add a lot of pressure to the mix. They're not, that's such a weird way of thinking of things. But thank you for bringing it up. We can get children all the way at the end, but yeah. Sometimes people say, I'll do this thing after marriage. I know I'm supposed to do this, or I know I'm not supposed to do this. Like this is something I have to do, or this is something that's haram. I know, after marriage. Where'd that checkpoint come from? What in the world would make you think that would make things easier to give up this vice or to adopt this thing? What's that indication? Because this person will help you? They could encourage you. They could say, stop doing that. They could say, keep doing that. But we'll get to this eventually too. I don't want to be pessimistic, but once certain phases are over and it's going to turn into nagging. It's no different than your friend now. In the beginning, there might be the honeymoon phase. There might be some kind of pleasantries that make it a lot more feasible to hear the same thing over and over. But that fades over time. Different time for certain people. Sooner for some, later for others. But at the end of the day, if your friends have been advising you this nonstop and you haven't been listening, what do you think a spouse is going to be different? It's going to be more annoying. They're in your face nonstop now. They're going to follow you every time you do this or miss this. It's going to be less tolerable. So all these are compromises that we make that are actually not only pulling our legs, but contradictory to the real purpose for which we live, setting us off to be sidetracked from the very beginning. I'll focus on work now, and spirituality can wait. That's another example where people say, no, don't worry about the masjid. You're going to all these talks and stuff, and you're learning Quran. How many hours in the week are you in the masjid? You know how many times that I hear that from quote-unquote religious folk? People telling them, like, what, are you going to live there? Go get a life. It's like, you didn't like me when I was outside the masjid. You don't like me when I'm inside of it. Like, what gives, right? But then some people are just like that. And you got to recognize that that's a hindrance. That's a compromise that they're making, and that's poison that they're putting in your ear. Whoever they may be. It doesn't mean you react rudely or violently, but it just means that you have to signal that. It's a red flag. This is something that's contradictory to what my life purpose is and what I'm supposed to do. The Prophet ﷺ would say, the hadith here in the bottom in Hadith Muslim, he would say, Allahumma aslih li dini alladhi huwa ismatu amri, wa aslih li dunyaya allati fiha ma'ashi, wa aslih li akhirati allati ilayha ma'adi, waj'al al-hayata ziyadatan li fi kulli khair, waj'al al-mawta rahatan li min kulli shar. O Allah, rectify for me my deen, my religious commitment, because it is what holds everything else together. And fix for me my worldly life, because in it is my livelihood. I live here. I need to eat, drink, and sleep, right? And fix for me my hereafter, because to it is my appointment. And make this worldly life, make this life an increase for me in all good, and make death a rest for me from all evil. I love this hadith so much, this dua, because it aligns the perspective properly. Life, death, good and bad, it sets it straight. It's not what I think, it's not what you think, it's not what my culture thinks, it's not what TV tells me, it's the reality of it is what he's saying here. What is it all about? Oh, Allah, fix for my deen, because without it, everything else will fall apart. Is your deen like that? Is it what holds everything else together? It's how it's supposed to be. Then he says, fix for me my worldly life, because I live here. I have my sustenance, food, drink. It's a tool, it's a vehicle. If the vehicle breaks down, I won't get to where I'm going. Do I look at the worldly life as a tool, as a vehicle, or is this home? Is this the prize? Then he said, fix for me my hereafter, because I have an appointment. I'm heading there very soon. Sooner than I expect, sooner than I'd like, there's an appointment. It's a timer. There's a timer that's ticking down right now, just like the clock, every single second. There's an amount of seconds that I have left here. There's an amount of breaths, an amount of heartbeats. And every single moment, it only ever ticks down one. It never goes up. So he's conscious of that. Fix for me my hereafter. I have an appointment there. Make life an increase for me for all good. If I'm still alive, I'm getting good things. And make death a reprieve for me from all evil. When I die, make it because bad things were coming. I used up my reservoir of good with you. Such a beautiful shifting of the perspective when it comes to life and what actually matters. And this is what keeps you grounded when you keep a hadith and dua like this in mind, and you use them regularly. You don't just say them, but you reflect over them, and you try to realign your own perspective accordingly. Any questions? We've done this before, comparing the two Abrahams. You guys remember this? Somebody do it without looking at the slides. What's the comparison of the two Abrahams? It's too small for people to read, right? So it's perfect. I'll give it to you later, don't worry. Abraham Maslow versus which Abraham? Huh? Come on, I did this like 5 times here over the last 3 years. No one else is counting? Excellent. That's why I reuse material. You guys will never know, and I'll say it out in the open. It doesn't faze me. You guys remember Abraham Maslow, right? Hierarchy of needs? You guys say no, I'll make this up too. It's very low stakes for me. What's at the top of the pyramid? Oh, sorry, it starts at the bottom, right? What's on the bottom? You're right, physiological needs. Which is the basics, but that's what they're called. Food, drink, shelter. Then what comes here? And what comes here? Self-actualization. So this is Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? This is what human beings need to survive. The base of the pyramid is the most important. Physiological needs: food, drink, shelter, water, and other physical stuff. I think that's it. And that's the most important. Without it, there's no point on moving further. The next level is love and belonging: family, friends, security. Friends overrated, but people. And then the top of the pyramid is when they have all these things established and they're comfortable, now they can think about self-actualization, being the best that they can be, being kind to others. And then self-transcendence is living for something beyond yourself. When all of these get filled now, then you look beyond you, and when you die, you might think of religion and stuff like that. If the bottom doesn't get fulfilled, you can't move on to the second layer, you can't move on to the top, and morality, justice, all that has no meaning if we can't fill our bellies. There's some merit to this, but not from the way that he was speaking about. It's not in terms of needs or importance. It just in terms of practicality. People won't be able to focus. That's true. But in terms of importance, purpose, and needs, he's off his rocker, right? He's tripping. You have to flip it. How do we know that? From a different Abraham, from Ibrahim alayhi salam, where he brings his family to Mecca, but before it's Mecca. وَادٍ غَيْرِ ذِي زَرْعٍ. And I brought this example specifically because it has family in it. He brings his family here, who's Hajar, his wife Hajar, and his newborn son. And he comes to Mecca and he says, oh Allah, I put them here, وَادٍ غَيْرِ ذِي زَرْعٍ, a valley without any vegetation. They can't eat or drink. There's no people here. They have nothing. The bottom of the pyramid is empty. They're going to die here. And his first request is, he says, oh Allah, I left them here. They're going to die here, basically. There's no food, there's no drink. It's a barren land as you commanded. His first request is, رَبَّنَا لِيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ. Oh Allah, make sure that they establish prayer, that they know who you are. I'm not there. He didn't say feed them, give them a home. They're in the middle of a valley with nothing, no food, no drink, no structure. He says, oh Allah, make sure they pray. I won't be there to teach them it. I'm tasking you with this. I'm asking you for it. وَاجْعَلْ أَفْئِدَةً مِّنَ النَّاسِ تَهْوِي إِلَيْهِمْ. And make people's hearts flock towards them. Give him the second part. And is there a land on the face of the earth that has less to offer in the worldly sense, and people's hearts flock to it more than Mecca? Who's been to Mecca? Who wants to go back? Yeah, I forced you at this point, right? You know, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala invite us all back. And for those who haven't been, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send you an invite ASAP. Allahumma ameen. Send people's hearts to flock towards them, and there's no city that's visited more or loved more on the face of the earth than this one. And then lastly, he said, "What وَارْزُقْهُم مِّنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ." Grant them from the fruits. They need to eat something. But even then, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَشْكُرُونَ, so that they can be grateful towards you. It has to read back to this or it's a waste of time. So he's establishing this hierarchy very clearly with his family, even when he's absent. Saying, why am I absent? Why am I leaving you behind? He's not a deadbeat. He's not abandoning them. It's a command from Allah. He told me to leave you guys here. He has an epic story in store for you guys that none of us know, which is the establishment of the city and the Hajj and the billions of people who have walked in their footsteps since and followed their legacy. But they didn't know all that. They just said, what's the most important thing in our life? He turns around to leave and she says, where are you going? What are we going to eat? What are we going to drink? Who's going to take care of this infant? And he ignores her. And she knows, she's lived with him, she's experienced with him. So when he ignores her 3 times, she connects the dots. Did Allah command you to do this? Then he finally answers, says, yes. She says, إِذَنْ لَا يُضَيِّعْنَا. He will not forsake us. That's fine, go. We'll figure it out. So the whole family did this together. They submitted together. And there's a reason why our entire deen almost follows the footprints of the family of Ibrahim. It's a family legacy. That in every single prayer we say, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim. We send peace and blessings upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and his family, the same way that we do upon Ibrahim and his family. They do it together. It ties directly into it. It's not a separate thing. I don't worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and I go on this journey despite my family, or my family is baggage or secondary when I think of this. They have to be directly involved. They have to be part and parcel involved in this journey of mine, or else it doesn't make any sense that I look to them as baggage or on a separate journey. Like, what's going on here? That makes no sense whatsoever. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, He emphasizes the family. We know that the family is important. We're not detracting from that, and we'll get to the responsibility inshallah eventually. But with him telling us and emphasizing family, he also tells us, وَلَقَدْ جِئْتُمُونَا فُرَادَى كَمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. You have come to us alone as we created you for the first time. وَتَرَكْتُم مَا خَوَّلْنَاكُمْ وَرَاءَ ظُهُورِكُمْ. And you've left everything we've provided you with behind you. There's no family members, there's no wealth. The Prophet ﷺ said, يقول ابن آدم مالي مالي وهل لك من مالك إلا ما أكلت فأفنيت أو ألبست أو لبست فأبليت. أو تصدقت فأمضيت وما سوى ذلك فذاهب وتاركه للناس. The son of Adam says, oh my wealth, oh my wealth. And then the Prophet ﷺ said, and what wealth do you actually possess except you either buy something and then eat it and then it goes to waste, or you wear it and then it wears out and it's gone, or you give it to charity, then you'll actually experience it and see in the hereafter. Meaning what you're saying, what belongs to you? All of it is going to go. And everything else you have will be left behind for other people. Hassan al-Basri says on the Day of Judgment, the son of Adam will say, where's my wealth? And then he will be told, he'll be brought in this small, destitute state, like a small lamb, and he will be asked, where is what you had gathered? He is asked, where is your wealth? And he replies, I left it all behind. I collected and I worked hard and now it's all behind. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, and what did you send forward for here? For this meeting, for this hereafter? Everything you amassed, everything you worked for, house, family, luxuries, they're gone now. What's here though? What did you send here? And then he will realize he has nothing. Right? The son of Adam that is standing in this judgment will realize nothing. All of it was invested in the past. So this is people who look at it separately. They look at it as a separate goal and they invest, part and parcel in the wrong thing as a life purpose. So they spend their whole lives, they build this mirage, they build this sand castle, and the day of judgment comes like the sunrise or comes like that wave, and all of a sudden, wait a second, spend hours and effort and focus and admiration to something that was so fragile and not worth it and temporary by design. Not as a punishment, but by design. So some people will wake up to that fact for the very first time in their lives on the day of judgment itself. Where they come out of their graves, they realize the gravity and the seriousness of the moment, and their life investment of family or of wealth is now not just absent, but an opponent, right? A grievance against them, part of their rap sheet. It's a very, very frightening wake-up call that we hope to never get, that we hope to get here, right? Not in the hereafter. So this isn't to be morbid, but just to highlight that in our communities as Muslims, I'm not talking about non-Muslims and look what they do, the kuffar. In our communities, this is rampant, especially when it comes to marriage and weddings and family. Muslims have lost the plot. These things have become goals and have sidelined the actual purpose of life, and for that reason we are suffering and we are lost and we are unhappy. Quite simply, plainly put. This is the purpose of what I'm rambling about here. So, but we're here to pick on you, not Muslims as a category. Remember, I said we're going to get uncomfortable here, right? This is part one. Yes, sir? That's fine. I'll say what's here. This one's the biggest font so far, so I tried. The whiteboard, there's nothing on the board. It's just an ugly pyramid with my breaking down of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I don't mind if you want to see it and stuff, but there's... Sure? Forget everyone else, Ahmed. If anybody wants to move up or it's not clear, like I said, the slides you'll get. The whiteboard, I just use it to organize my thoughts sometimes. I won't use it regularly. If there's anything important on there, I'll try to let you know. But if anybody wants to move up or if you want to open the lights, feel free. So, quickly. Well, not quickly. We're not on a time limit, but I want everybody an individual experiment. And just grade yourself as a Muslim. Take a minute. What would you grade yourself as a Muslim? What kind of Muslim are you? You want to give a number? You want to give a grade, letters? I don't care. You don't have to say it out loud. You want to put it in the Slido for us to consider? Don't get to this first that question yet. It's not supposed to be on this slide. It's supposed to be a separate slide. But first, give yourself a grade, an honest grade, and I want to see it, and I want to hear it. You don't have to raise your hand. You can put it in the Slido. I just told you, it could be A, B, C, D, F, or it could be 1 to 100, it could be 1 to 10, 4 stars, up to you. Rate yourself according to this arbitrary scale that you make. Don't complicate it. No comment. No, but I don't think anyone's ever really ready. No, some people are ready. There could be always a feeling of uncertainty, but no, get ready and they know they're generally ready. Give yourself a grade. C, okay? And give me a general Y. Don't just give me a grade, a small Y. So far I have a C and a B minus. So I guess we're doing letters for everybody else. Give yourself an honest grade, A plus. I'll give myself B minus. Been consistently going to Fajr in the masjid now, but it's easy now, so I don't know if that counts. But memorization has been okay. It does count. So I want you to consider, I try my best, but there's room for improvement. B minus, or B plus. 6.78 out of 10. All right. My grade's less than the grade of my ideal spouse. 5 out of 10. So now that you've analyzed your own individual religiosity and continue to do so with these people coming in now, keep it coming. So you just judge yourself, right? You just passed a judgment on yourself. You've considered your religiosity. You thought for a second. What did you think about? You don't have to say it out loud, but maybe you thought of your prayers. You maybe thought about how you speak. Maybe you thought about your relationship with your parents. That's what I'm guessing. So the same way that you thought of those things, I want you to think of them again. And now you put yourself in the shoes of a friend of yours. Consider that you're a friend of yours and give yourself advice. Give yourself nasiha. What would you say? Again, if anybody wants to say it out loud, that's fine, or say the Slido, but I want to explore some real answers. Not silly ones, not cop-out ones, not generic, I'll tell myself, try harder, never give up. That's good advice, but it's generic. Like, you know your situation for real. I want real advice. What would you tell you? And that's the reason why I said consider yourself a friend and don't advise yourself, because advise yourself sounds weird, but you advise people all the time. You advise people all the time, and you're compassionate, and you're patient, and you're considerate, and you think of their situation, or maybe you aren't. I hope you are. But if you're not, you still advise people. And I assume you're not a big jerk about it, like, hey, just get out of here or get lost. I assume you guys look like a kind bunch of people. So how would you advise you if you were a friend? Now that you just gave yourself a grade, so you know that you have a friend here who's a 5 out of 10 in their deen, or D and there's room for improvement, or that there's an A minus and the rating isn't about where you're compared to others, but consistency and work you've been dedicating to improve yourself and your iman now. How do you advise this person had they said this to you? Think about it for a second. Most of this doesn't need to be said to me or even put on the Slido. It's purely for you. Like I said, coming in here, this session's about you. We have a couple more of these that are a little bit different. Ignore everybody. Ignore me. Well, you don't have to ignore me. I might add some insight, but you could ignore the back and forth that I'm doing and just engage in the activity itself. But I really want you to think deeply, because this is what perhaps is most fruitful out of everything we're going to do here. Because it's relevant to everybody. It'll always be relevant to everybody. It's relevant at every single given moment. And there are no exceptions. There's nothing in here that doesn't apply to everybody here at all times, forever, from birth till death, literally. The rest, maybe not. So think about it. What nasiha would you give yourself? It could be either. Focus on the big picture and the greater good. I'd say focus on the now. Somebody agrees with you. Yes, there's so much more you want to do, but make best with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you now. Thinking too far ahead makes you do less. It's not exactly the same, actually. To the average Muslim Joe, well, his name wouldn't be Joe. You're doing pretty good, but I can see you can be a superstar. You don't even know who I am. Focus on how to be a better worshiper than you were yesterday. I'm kidding. I know this is for you. Just do it. Stop overthinking or blaming everyone else. Take accountability, take action, get up and pray, pick up the Quran, seek knowledge and act on it. pray and get closer to Allah. Okay? So, I want you to do this experiment, and all the ones that we're about to dive into, the one or two, depending on how much time we have, I want you to actually do them regularly. Because, and I'm going to say this again later, so, just buckle up to hear the same exact thing. When you do these experiments for the first time, and especially these next two, you're going to feel awkward. It's going to feel unnatural. And the thoughts and the reflections don't come right away. But when you practice them just a couple of times, you'll be surprised how much that you can achieve just by introspection, which is why we have it in our deen. Tafakkur, tadabbur. In fact, some of the scholars have said this is the greatest act of worship. It's greater than jihad, it's greater than everything else because it requires nothing. Someone could be sitting there, multiplying their good deeds, getting closer to Allah, and they're just sitting like this. And somebody else is next to them thinking about what's for dinner, right? Or thinking about haram. And the difference between them, this guy's leveling up, or this person's leveling up, this sister's going to Jannah just by sitting there, while this other person is just defunct, right? Barely a human being, and just thinking about brain rot as if they're scrolling in their own mind. So when you reflect regularly, you have access to worship and good deeds and connections to Allah simply from within yourself by connecting to the material and thinking about it. So get used to it. If it's weird, that's your problem. So let's get weird. Everybody, close your eyes. Let me see somebody's eyes open. If you want to say, I don't need to close my eyes, I can think of stuff. Okay, let me see the whites of your eyes. I'm not going to do anything. I just said it in a threatening manner to see if it'll work. But for real, I challenge you. Stop thinking about how dumb you look. Stop thinking about how weird Muhammad is and his dumb experiments. Empty your brain and just close your eyes. What? No. That's what they're afraid of, that we're going to do something like that to them. No, I'll do it with you so it's not awkward. Close your eyes. Is your eyes closed? You sure? How many fingers am I holding up? All right. So, with the grade that you gave yourself and the scenarios you analyzed, ignore everything. Ignore the person next to you. If your phone buzzes, ignore it. Ignore everything else. Ignore who's coming in and out and wondering what we're doing because they don't have the context. Forget them. Ignore how silly you might look, and if I'm looking at you, I'm not. I don't care what you look like, and I'm not looking at anybody. I'm joining you in the experiment. My eyes are closed too. Did you open your eyes to see why everyone's quiet? Because then you didn't follow instructions. Okay, now that you're hopefully following instructions and blanked out, I want you to think about the grade you gave yourself, the questions that you thought about to analyze that grade of where you're standing in life, what you're struggling with. And I want you to hit fast forward. You're now 80 years old. You're old. You're wrinkly. Your hair's white. Your skin's loose. And picture you as you look like at 80. Everything went right. Your life was fulfilled. All those things that you thought about, they were resolved. And I want you to think about those very things in the various stages of your life. You're in your 20s, then you think about them in your 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s, in your 60s, in your 70s, until now, 80. They're happy, they're resolved, they're fulfilled. Everything we just discussed, everything we spoke about, the challenges. And you're dying. This is the very end. What went right? Why? How do you feel about it? Who's with you? What are you saying? What are you considering? Remember, it all went right. There's no negatives. It's all the sacrifices, you're happy about them. So what are you saying? What are you considering? What are you concluding at this moment? What went right and why? And how? And with who? Open your eyes. How many people struggle to get an image? You want to share why? Put you on the spot? I'm sorry. Okay, that's fine. Understandable. How many people ever thought this far? I'm not going to lie, I never thought I'd live to 80. It's just not something that occurred. I never pictured myself at 80. So it's much further. How many people kept it 100% positive? No negative thoughts whatsoever. There's no sadness. Most people struggle with this. because they think I'm old, I'm dying. But that's not the experiment. Is everything went right? There's nothing wrong. So if you struggle to do that, it's already a red flag. It's kind of a social services one, has nothing to do with me. Like it's not a religious one, but like you're already struggling to form positive memories and positive assumptions of the future. You're already afraid to be optimistic. So that's like a red flag that you should keep note. If you're struggling to bring positive imagery at 80, like there's already a block where you don't think that you can even put yourself in an imaginary positive situation. What the heck? Why? It's free. Costs nothing. Practice doing that, and you should do it all the time. Like you more religious, you more pious, you in a better relationship with your parents, you more patient, you more generous to others, you as a great father, as a great mother, as a great sibling. Picture it. It's free. It costs you nothing. Right? Be optimistic. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَنَا عِنْدَ ظَنِّ عَبْدِ بِي فَلْيَظُنَّ بِي مَا يَشَاءُ. I will match my servant's assumption of me. I will meet him there. So let him assume as he wills. Assume good, assume bad, I will fulfill it. Anyway, what went right and why? Anybody want to share? I have a bunch of suggestions here. I'd rather not. I want to hear you. Like I said, this whole course is going to be like this. I'm going to nag on you. I want to hear your opinions. If you don't give them to me, I'll just sit here. Doesn't bother me. Yes, Nida. Mm-hmm. Do they have to be great citizens? it's your. I'm just sorry. It was just a dumb joke. I'm sorry. They should be good citizens. I apologize. Okay, so that's a very common one, right? Family and extended family. People don't usually picture like, oh, I have one child there with me. No, it's like a child, a couple of children, and then their grandchildren, right? Great-grandchildren, maybe at 80. That's a very common one. Okay, and they're all good people. That's important as well. I want to be surrounded by a bunch of bums or like wicked people like that. That wouldn't make us happy, right? Anything else? Yes, Reem? That's good. So you have a lifetime of good deeds to look back at and reminisce over on the way out. Sounds good. I like it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it so for all of us. Anything else? I was in Medina. That's a good one. Why? So is Medina guaranteed to go out peacefully? Is it always a peaceful place? I don't want to be that guy. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever can die in Medina, then let him do so. من استطاع منكم أن يموت في المدينة فليمت. Like purposely go try to die in Medina. So he said that specifically, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that his shafa'ah has a special priority for people who are buried in Baqiyah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be buried there. Allahumma ameen. So that's a nice addition. Thank you, Sarab. Are we done? Yes? So you're done with the Quran? I know someone who finished it, I think, at 82. Started, I forgot when she started. She's still alive. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless her. She lives in Staten Island. Invite her here, I'll try. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless her. All right. Step 2. Close your eyes again. Everybody. Should be faster this time. Get into the zone. Ignore everybody. Stop whatever you're doing. It needs you to be present. That's why I'm doing this. I'm not bored. You have to be present, and you just force yourself to not need a distraction, to not need a sound effect, to not need any colors, and just have you and your own heart and how you feel in your own mind and what it can imagine. And you'll be surprised again at that feedback loop between your mind and your heart and what it can achieve when you do this regularly, when you do it sincerely, and when you do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you do it based on religious material, which is what we're getting to eventually. Now you're 80 years old again. You're just as wrinkly, you're just as old, just as white-haired, Same lifetime has passed you by. And consider all those problems that you graded your own religiosity based on. But now you messed them all up. They just got worse. 20 was worse than your teens, and the 30s were worse than your 20s, and the 40s were worse than your 30s, and 70s, and now 80. And it's the valley. Like it just dipped. Just tanked. In all the categories of life that you were considering, when you spoke about are you ready for marriage, when you spoke about your religiosity, those things that came to mind, they all tanked. And now at the end, it's just all of it. You ruminate in it, you just look back at it, and that's the curtain call. It falls on this. What does that life look like? How do you feel? What went wrong and why? And with who? Where is everybody? If it all went wrong, what is their perception of you now at 80 on your way out? And why? What were the characteristics and the vices that you had that led to this that you knew were here 40 years ago or 60 years ago, whatever age you are? Open your eyes. What do you think? Most people, just because we're running out of time here, most people have an easier time with this because, like I said, they don't have positive self-perception, which is partially not your fault. There's not a lot of that going around, but your attitude is going to determine a lot of what you do. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Your outlook determines your outcome. That's a big part of what we're doing here. And there's a couple more of these. I don't know if I'll have time for them, but that's okay. We can do them next time, inshallah. But a couple of minutes getting uncomfortable and considering the end of your life. What did we come up with? Yeah, Mayed. So alone in a nursing home. You want to elaborate? Okay. I mean, just about that, like, why would that be bad? Okay. Anybody else? Yeah, Adam?
I feel like in this scenario, I would still be a Muslim, alhamdulillah, but like, I don't know, it's like my family would hate me, and like,
Why? If you don't mind me asking. Sorry, it's probably not a good why, but just,
no, it's okay. I didn't financially provide for them,
okay.
maybe emotionally, like if I would like be mean to them and stuff, and like wasn't there for them, and in this scenario, the only thing like they're just waiting for me to die to take my parents, like in that scenario, so like the worst possible thing.
Okay, that's pretty bad. Yeah,
It's hard for me to imagine. It's hard for me to imagine becoming a worse Muslim. So what my head went to was being alone, but instead of being in a nursing home, like alone in my own house, like for example, having my wife and kids pass away before I did.
okay. Yeah, you see.
In both scenarios, something that triggered my mind a lot was like,
I didn't even see you come in. I opened my eyes and you were here. So what did you
yeah.
caught both scenarios?
So from both scenarios, I kind of did the same thing because I missed what you told us.
Okay, that explains it. Like I don't remember hearing the instructions.
Yeah, I had a lot of time to reflect about this.
While we were all with our eyes closed, you just came in and just sat with us. You didn't. I love it.
But I was thinking a lot about like, what if I did a lot of good in my life, but what if I wasn't sincere? And now, it's the end of my life, and all that just went to waste, and I can't do anything else anymore.
That'd be horrible. Anybody else? Sisters? Go ahead. So we're actively, what's the point of this? What do you guys think is the point of this before I say what the point is? Because I know what the point of it is. I made it. What do you guys think? Yes, Evie. Okay, on the right track. You have control. A little bit more. Yeah. A little bit close. You don't want to regret later in life. That's on the right track, but not exactly. You are actively heading. Sorry, somebody's gonna say something. No. You go ahead, Nana. So that's not even it either.
It doesn't go
You're
to first
already
floor.
heading to
Or
one of
does
these
it?
two scenarios.
No, only third floor.
No, I don't know the future. Yeah, Zach.
No, he got the hotel.
You're about to ask how do you know the future? I don't.
No. Hadim, we gotta come tonight to switch it.
No, but he would be
I know.
talking if he heard
Let
it.
me finish.
right?
Okay. Thank you. So what I was
Hey,
gonna say
Sheikh?
was that you're actively heading towards these two scenarios.
It's only on third floor.
Doesn't mean you're gonna get to either
They
one.
can use this to. Oh, no, they need it for all
But
three.
you are actively moving towards.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil
That's
Alameen.
just how you are as a human being. The Prophet ﷺ drew a
عباد
box in the
الله.
sand and he drew lines and he said, humans,
أوصيكم ونفسي
these are
بتقوى
human beings.
الله
These are
جل
their
وعلا.
their hopes and their goals. And what's the box he drew around them? He said that's death. That's their lifespan. That's the limit of the breaths or the
الله أكبر الله
As soon as they hit
أكبر.
them, they're done. But then the lines that come from the box and go outside of it, he said those are the hopes and dreams. They go past your lifespan. You're always thinking so much further. You're worried about so much further as well. So, but you're actively working to
الله
achieve
أكبر
the
الله
good ending,
أكبر.
hopefully, and run away from the evil one, or supposedly. That's what
الله
So,
أكبر
when somebody
الله
is looking at that end goal, they don't,
أكبر.
and they reflect correctly the way that you're supposed to, as a Muslim and somebody who's aware of their purpose. with
أشهد
all that
أن
we're
لا
talking about this
إله
now,
إلا
I constantly think of this scenario
الله.
and immediately it reverts back to what I'm doing now. I don't say that, well, that's never going to happen. I'm not going to be the worst Muslim ever. I'm not going to be the best Muslim ever. That's not how I think at all. That is tasweef. That is saying, that's when you say eventually and sure, I'll do that. That's originally from shaitan. Just putting things off. I'll never be the worst Muslim. Why not? In the worst case scenario, I'm still a Muslim. What the heck? Why is that your worst case scenario? That you're still a Muslim? What makes you have that anchor? The worst case scenario is that I'm not a Muslim. قُلْ إِنَّ الْخَاسِرِينَ الَّذِينَ خَسِرُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ وَأَهْلِيهِمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Say the losers are those who lost themselves and their families on the day of judgment. The tafsir says because they enter Jahannam and they look and they see their families enter Jannah, or they enter Jahannam and they look behind them and they see their families in tow. So the worst case scenario is the worst case scenario. And what's the best one? It's the absolute best. And then I work accordingly. This is so much more important and so much more pertinent to dominate our minds even in this process. Why? Why in this process? What does that have to do with marriage? Yeah, Yusuf. Yeah, you can. I did. Let them laugh. What's it your loss, man? Let me bask in this for now. It's okay.
At least for me personally, I feel like I wouldn't want to go into a marriage with a lot of baggage in terms of things I want to fulfill myself.
So that's definitely a part of it. There's a lot of this that's baggage that's going to come into marriage. That's for sure. And that's going to harm you, harm your spouse, harm the process, it threatens everything that we're talking about because it's baggage. That part is true. But does that necessitate, is that the conclusion that I'm aiming for, that you should only enter marriage as the best version of yourself? That should be a goal. It should be just a standard that you set for yourself. That's what I want to, that whenever I get married, if it's next year, I want to be the best version of myself at that point up until now, and then I'm improving. So that's fine as a goal. But does it mean that you could only, or does it, that you only could be married when you're perfect, or that a certain standard? That's what we're here to explore. There's another hand up there? Yeah, Yassine? So the person you marry is going to be is going to lead you to one of those outcomes. What do you guys think? Going to lead you to one of those outcomes? 50-50 chance? Based on what? If you're male or female?
Oh, no, no, no. I mean, like, let's say I'm 5 out of 10 now, and if I marry a righteous person,
If she's a 7 out of 10, then together you're a 6 out of 10 because the averages.
let's say I'm 5 out of 10, and
Mhm.
she's 8 out of 10.
Mhm.
But because of her influence, I can be a better version of myself.
Yes.
But if she's 2 of 5, then I might go to like 3 out of 5 from where I'm now.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, you'll average out your faith. Not always, but not wrong either. Yes, sir? Exactly. It's not a separate. The marriage is part of this journey. So wherever you are on this journey, that's where marriage will land. So if you're in the beginning of your journey and you're struggling spiritually, struggling self-development, struggling on your emotion, then in that circle that you're spinning, in that trajectory of life, that's where you'll meet your spouse. When you're falling apart or you don't got it all together, that's where you stood. So you were in that circle, and that's what the energy you attracted. Or that's where, for whatever reason, as you were in that orbit, that's where you met that spouse as you were in that orbit in life. It's part of your life journey. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us so many ayat and hadith indicating that this is what that you strive for as a part of your journey, and that's what you will find. So we have the hadith, the ayah in Surah An-Nur, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Al-khabithatu lil-khabithin, wal-khabithuna lil-khabithat, wal-tayyibatu lil-tayyibin, wal-tayyibuna lil-tayyibat. That wicked women are for wicked men are for wicked women, virtuous women are for virtuous men are for virtuous women. He didn't have to say all that back and forth. Could have said, you get what you're looking for, you get who you are, but he wanted to emphasize, these people belong to these people. They're bound by them in their fate because of their, birds of a feather flock together. He said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, إذا جاءكم من ترضون دينه وخلقه فزوجوه إلا تفعلوه تكن فتنة في الأرض وفساد كبير. If whoever comes to you, he's speaking to who here? Whoever comes to you and you're satisfied with his religious commitment and his manners, then marry him off. If you don't do this, it'll be a huge fitna, it'll be a huge calamity for people, and widespread corruption in the land. Who's he talking to? He's talking to the fathers, right? Because he's saying if a man comes and you're satisfied with his religious commitment and his manners, then marry him off to your daughter. And then the hadith now addressing the men, he said, تُنْكَحُ الْمَرْأَةُ لِأَرْبَعٍ, and we'll get into these hadith in depth when we speak about the ideal husband, the ideal wife. But he said a woman is usually married for 4 reasons. This is what people do, meaning her wealth, her lineage, her beauty, her piety. So select the pious, may you be blessed. فَاظْفَرْ بِذَاتِ الدِّينِ تَرِبَتْ يَدَاكَ. Just slow it down and everything will be okay. Select the pious one, may you be blessed. Not a good translation, but it's okay. And then he said a person gains nothing better after taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and a righteous wife, not a righteous spouse. Also bad translation. AI. So, what's the point of this? Yeah.
I think it's like, I heard something, if you marry a woman for beauty, one, it's like, people say that you're going to get like, the beauty wears off in like a week or something.
A week.
No, that's what I've heard people say, but the point is that when you pick someone righteous and they actually make you happy.
Sorry, what did you say? No, I just, I got hung up on something else. You said beauty fades. Yeah, no, I got it. So that's true. Beauty could fade. Doesn't have to, it could. But that's not the entirety of the point of why I put these here. We're going to talk about spouse selection. As I slur my speech, I guess this is the end of the line for me. I've been up for a while. So the point that these hadith are here is that both males and females are instructed to search for the deen. So if you're instructed to search for this quality, it only makes sense that you have it as well. But if this is the main quality that you're instructed to search for, then it only makes sense for you to have that quality. Right or wrong, if the other spouse that you're searching for, this is the main quality that you're looking for, and you're expecting them to be that same, but then you don't have that quality, everyone's looking at me like, duh, this isn't, you wanted to make a whole point of this. All of this entire course is fashioned and made based off of you and your problems and your questions. Not you physically, you literally, some of you for sure, but you as in the community. So the amount of times where somebody says, I'm looking for a sister who looks like this, or a brother who acts like that, it's not appropriate for me to say, look at you, because that's not my job, but I'm just holding my tongue back. Like, what do you mean? Like, you're just clearly not on that level. You're clearly struggling, which is fine, we all are. But you're saying this is absolutely non-negotiables. And a lot of them are beyond the bare minimum. While you're a bottom feeder, like you're really scraping deen-wise. So why do people do that? That's why I'm putting it, that's why we're doing all this. It doesn't, reflect what we do as a community in our marriage search doesn't reflect the duh that everyone gives me whenever we share these things. They're like, yeah, this is obvious. Well, what people do doesn't reflect it. I'm talking about religious people in the community, not random people who don't care about any of this. So does a bad experience mean you're a bad person based on this? Someone said no. How do you know? This seems pretty clearly indicative of that. That if you end up with someone bad, it's because you're a bad person. True or false? Yes? Okay, why? So we have Asya and Fir'aun. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala went out of his way to give us a specific example in a surah by itself, all lined up. Meaning it's not like a random example. It's specifically about the women folk in this example. Wow, we could have done that in the beginning? It's okay, I'll vomit when I get home. So Asya, the wife of Fir'aun, this changes everything. So Asya, the wife of Fir'aun, she was one of the best people ever, literally, one of the best people ever to be created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he is literally the most wicked man on earth. They were paired together. Allah made a trial for him, and she passed, he failed. He mentions, subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentions the wife of Lut and the wife of Nuh, that their husbands are prophets. Right? It's all mentioned in the same page on purpose. It's a specific example of two people. The closest person to them is a prophet of God, receiving revelation live, interacting with angels, performing miracles. And then they end up as disbelievers. And they fight against them. And then Asya, whose husband is the worst human being ever created. The bottom out of the billions and billions of people who ever existed, he's the lowest. Him and Shaitan are two of a kind, literally. And then his wife is one of the leaders of the women of paradise and one of the best women to ever exist. It's a trial. So sometimes it's not what happens, but it is the default. We should know that it is the default. If I'm not being righteous, then it's unlikely that I'll end up with someone righteous. Does that mean you have to be perfect? No, relax. Thank you, AI. It just means that this should be the focus. Why? Because it's your purpose. We already covered that, right? That it is your purpose. It's why you're here. If you make something else the purpose, or that dominates your focus, that becomes the reason why you exist, the reason why you're happy, the reason why you're sad all the time, it's your existence, that's not why you're here. And for a lot of people, that's what ends up happening. They get so caught up in the process, so caught up in experiences that it dominates their day in and day out. And I get it, bad experiences or good experiences tend to dominate your chemical imbalance for a little bit, but when it becomes your norm, ongoing, this is what your life is all about, it's not why you're here, it's not why you're created. Yes, dunya. So we'll talk about looking for a spouse, but for now, this is just about self-development. It's about you. The focus now is you. And the connection to marriage is that it's a part of your personal journey. That's it for this one here. We'll talk about looking for a spouse and like comparing religiosity, and we'll look into that a little bit deeper later. Just because like I do want to wrap this up, and that will be a little bit of a tangent. So first off, focus on you, because that's why you're here. Allah created you for this reason. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى. He has succeeded or she has succeeded, the one who purifies themselves. That's what success is. فمن أدخل الجنة, right? فمن زحزح عن النار وأدخل الجنة فقد فاز. Whoever is brought away from the hellfire and granted admittance into paradise has succeeded. That has to be the end all be all. That has to be the dominating thought of our day in and day out all the time. And marriage has to fit into that equation, not separate from it. Can't be emphasized enough. So number one is purpose. Number two is by focusing on self-development, making yourself the main focus, then the right person by design you'll run into them through that process. That part of that process will lead you to the right person. That's something that we just established and mentioned. You don't have to create a dichotomy where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made synchrony. What does that mean? It's a fancy way of saying it doesn't have to be either or when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told you both. A lot of times either or is made by you, not by Allah. If I be religious, I have to give up my friends. Who said that? You said that. Maybe they'll all follow the path too. Maybe they'll get their act together, at least when they're around you, and they'll tolerate it and they'll be, or maybe they will stop being your friends, but you don't want them as friends anymore. You don't consider them as friends anymore. All these possibilities that you'll be completely fine, but you're holding back because if I start practicing, I have to get rid of this and I have to change that. And if I take my deen more seriously, now I have to change this about myself and I'm not ready. Creating a dichotomy, creating an either or, and Allah never said that. Instead, He told you, if you jump, I'll catch you. If you go forward, I'll make it easier. If you choose this path, I'll open 5 more. I won't close a door except I'll open another one. This is from Allah. And then from us, it's all like, oh, if I do this, I have to give this up. I have to lose this. I'm going to be miserable. So that dichotomy comes from us, not from Allah. So if I be more practicing, if I focus more on my deen, if I'm that person, if I'm that sister, if I'm that brother, people look at me as such, I'll lose prospects, I'll gain prospects, I'll get the wrong prospects. Who told you all of that? You're second guessing the journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, towards your creator, your nourisher, your caretaker, your most beloved. You're second guessing that journey and you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out doing the hokey pokey over this dichotomy that again, you created. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never said. Why do we do that? Number 3 is a rhetorical question. You can feel free to answer though. Number 3 is, through this process, you'll realize something very important. And that's what I was saying earlier, that most people have a very negative perception of themselves, have very negative expectations when it comes to themselves. They don't feel like they deserve good. They don't feel like Allah will ever forgive them. They don't feel like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guide them. And they second guess all of these things over and over again, and it becomes this giant, oblique hammer that just pounds their faith into the ground and makes their existence a shadow of what could have been. It makes the blessings that they have in their hands a shadow of what Allah intended them to be. It makes their potential to help others a shadow of what it could have been. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them with all of this, and He just gave it to them. He said, do it. And then here's the tools, here's the configuration, here's the context. Allah already did all of it. And then we come in and say, no, not me, I can't do this. Or Allah doesn't want this for me. Everything else indicates the opposite. You just got to lean into it. Don't lean away. You just got to take it with strength, take it with gratitude, take it with ihsan, take it with sincerity. Take it with this determination that I'm going to do it for you, do it seriously. And you'll be surprised at the results and then how much it becomes a positive feedback loop. Umar ibn Khattab, he came to the Prophet ﷺ and he told him, I love you more than everybody that exists except me. You guys know what happens next, right? What happens next? What happens next? He says, it's not yet, Umar. Not yet. That's not true faith. It's faith. But true faith is even have to be more than you. So Umar, in a second, he just stopped and he thought, and he said, done. Just think about how crazy that is, where you stop and rearrange like who you love in your heart. He just took the Prophet and he said, higher, me, I dropped down. And then he said, you're good, Umar. Now that's faith. But what I want to highlight in this hadith is actually none of that. He didn't correct him when he said, I love myself more than anybody. He didn't say, Umar, what are you, a narcissist? That's weird. What do you, love yourself? It's a normal human emotion. He said, I'm number one over everybody in this world except you. And the Prophet's comment was, no, I need to be number one. But he didn't correct the other thing. So, do you love yourself? Do you look at yourself positively? Do you expect that Allah will treat you positively? But I don't deserve that after what I've done. That's not what it's about. If that's what it's about, you're right, you do not. I don't know you personally, but nobody does. But it's not about you. أنا عند ظن عبدي بي فليظن بي ما يشاء. Let my servant assume of me as he or she wants. I will meet that assumption. So the Prophet ﷺ told us that a man will stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and when he is commanded to be tormented, he will say to Allah, that is not what I expected of you. I assumed that I would be forgiven. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I will match your assumption. Forgive him. It's that serious. He says, do not have a negative assumption of me. That's not who I am. That's not what I stand for, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that just, sorry, is a bit of a tangent, but you need to be enough for you. Stop chasing validation. Stop hanging your entire existence on finding somebody, some human being that gives you what only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is offering, which is unconditional, limitless acceptance and love and benevolence and kindness that will only ever come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No human being is able to offer that. And that's an important part of this process. We don't have time for this. We could do this next time. This will take a while. We'll do this next time, inshallah. Any questions, comments? I'm looking at the Slido. I believe the purpose is to create an idea of who you want to become and complete as yourself. You need to find someone who aligns with that and your future. For sure. We'll get into looking for a spouse and the process, inshallah, soon. We'll wrap this up, inshallah, next week. Probably one more session on this. Then we'll get into the ideal spouse, whether male or female, whichever you guys want to start with. Any questions, comments, concerns? There's a lot here that are old, so I don't know how to filter through them. I guess by time, that makes sense. Are you against marrying someone outside of your community? Do you mean ethnicity or community? We'll get to that. Either way, we'll get to both of them. Yes, sorry. Jazakallah khairan. Absolutely. The dua, and we're going to get to when you mention istikhara, right? Where you acknowledge that I don't know if this is good for me or bad for me. So this is mentioning that you make the dua that, oh Allah, make this a blessing and not a trial. You don't know. Trials can be disguised, blessings can be disguised, and very often what you expect isn't the reality. So the importance of handing it over to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and recognizing that it's rizq, it's provision from Him. He's a razaq, He's the provider. He's the one who decides that who will get how much, when, and all those details. And this is a part of it. And don't forget the story in Surah Al-Kahf, where that child was the worst thing to happen to that couple. Right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved them from it. But they didn't know that. They didn't read Surah Al-Kahf. I mean, you do. But to them, they just lost a child. And they said, why this happened? Some guy killed him. They didn't know that Allah was saving them. They'll find out on the Day of Judgment. But it's a very important story when it comes to life and blessings or trials in disguise. Yeah, Zach? Yeah, so anytime you're going to analyze the decision, so anytime there's new details, you'd pray istikhara again. Or anytime you need to retake that decision. So you definitely would pray the istikhara. There would be several valid times to pray it. Istikhara is a prayer. You just pray 2 rak'at and then you make a dua prayer to Allah, asking Him for guidance between decisions when you're forced to choose between decisions. So yeah, you pray it several times depending on if you received any new information or if you're asked to make a decision again after a preliminary one. But we'll get to that all eventually. Istikhara, choosing the spouse, the process, that's coming. We're still in the beginning. Yes, Atik, yeah. Yeah, you have to balance between those two. It's a journey. You're going to balance between both emotions. I'm going to make tawbah. I stop committing this sin. I ask Allah to forgive me. I'm regretful. I'm doing good deeds to make up for it. I'm taking all of it at once. I'm not going to do just one at a time. And with that, I'm going to say, inshallah, Allah will forgive me. I'll have a positive assumption. And I'll move on the rest of my life trying to be better, trying to outdo that sin, and then just constantly reminding myself that this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and Allah promised if I do what I'm supposed to be doing, He will forgive me. So it's not saying I am forgiven, I'm good. But I'm saying, like, will Allah forgive me? Yes, if I keep doing this. And I'm going to keep doing this. Oh, I failed today? Start again tomorrow. Will He forgive me? Yes, if I keep doing this. And every time I fail, I just restart that process. Am I forgiven? I don't know. I didn't say that. But will Allah forgive me? Yes, because He said so. So there are two distinct emotions and two distinct processes that go hand in hand. It depends on how people use it. Like sometimes people might say, give yourself credit, and it could be contradictory to humility and humbleness. And sometimes it could not be. Like sometimes people beat themselves up unreasonably. I'm the worst Muslim ever. I don't read any Quran. I don't memorize any Quran. In those situations, it wouldn't be bad to say, give yourself credit. You memorize X, Y, Z to somebody who's doing that. So that sense, it would be fine. But then you just got to be careful how people say it, because sometimes it could lead to either arrogance or just simply self-delusion that I am a great person and complacency. We have time for one more, sisters? Any sisters? Going once, going twice. I don't mean to rush you, but I do have to leave. All right, Jazakumullah khair, everyone. We'll continue next week with the self-development. We'll wrap it up, inshallah. Do you think one should share if that they were previously engaged and close to getting married when speaking